Rhea had never seen such tall buildings. The training academy stood like a fortress of steel and stone, its gates higher than any tree in her village. She arrived early that morning with a single bag, a scarf around her neck, and an old note from her grandmother pressed tightly in her pocket. She kept repeating the words in her heart. You don't need to be loud, you just need to be true. Rhea didn't know how to fight, not the way the others here did, but she didn't come to fight. She came to learn. As soon as she stepped through the main gate, her silence was met with sharp stares. Dozens of students, dressed in spotless uniforms, practiced punches and kicks in perfect rhythm. Their bodies moved like machines. Her simple clothes and shy eyes made her stand out immediately. Hey, are you here for the cleaning job? A tall boy shouted, laughing as others turned to look. Rhea shook her head, forcing a polite smile. I'm a new student. Laughter broke out like thunder. Another girl stepped forward, arms crossed. You a student here? You must be joking. Rhea looked down. She wasn't sure if this was a mistake. Her village had no real schools, no proper teachers, just her grandmother, who taught her strange movements, slow and flowing like water. The scarf around her neck belonged to her. It still smelled like dried flowers and river soil. A whistle blew. A voice echoed through the ground. New students to the main hall. Rhea followed the group of about 20. Inside the hall was massive. Flags with the academy's symbol hung from the walls. At the front stood a young man with sharp features, his arms behind his back. Welcome to the Silver Ridge Martial Academy, he said. Some of you were invited. Some begged their way in, but only those with strength will stay. I am Viraj, and I will be your top mentor. If you're weak, leave now. His eyes scanned the line and paused on Rhea. Especially you? The crowd snickered again. Rhea felt her ears burn, but she didn't move. She stood straighter. Viraj tilted his head. All right, let's begin with introductions. Step forward. Name, hometown, and your training background. The students introduced themselves one by one, some from rich cities, others from famous fighting schools. Then it was Rhea's turn. She walked forward quietly. My name is Rhea. I come from Nandopur village. I've trained with my grandmother. Silence. Someone coughed to hide a laugh. What kind of training? Viraj asked, pretending to be serious. It's hard to explain. It's about balance, breathing, learning how to stand without enough. Viraj cut in. So you learned how to breathe? Impressive. Next, more laughter. Rhea stepped back, her face calm but her heart pounding. The day continued with drills, kicks, punches, running, lifting. Rhea struggled. Her movements were too soft, too slow. Others rolled their eyes. By afternoon, she slipped during a jump and fell hard. A roar of laughter shook the ground. Maybe she should try singing. Someone shouted, at least then she can sit. Tears stung Rhea's eyes, but she blinked them away. She stood up, wiped her hands on her pants, and bowed. I'll try again. That night, while others ate together, she quietly left the dorms. She walked to the woods behind the academy, a place no one visited after dark. Moonlight spilled through the leaves. She placed her scarf on a rock, took a deep breath, and began to move. Slow steps, arms rising and falling like the tide. Each motion was from her grandmother's teaching, a dance of strength hidden in stillness. As she moved, her thoughts calmed. She remembered her grandma's voice. If a tree bends with the wind, it doesn't break. Let them blow. You stay rooted. Behind a tree, a figure watched her, a man old and hunched, hidden by the shadows. His eyes narrowed as he studied her form. She finished her routine, unaware of the eyes upon her. She bowed to the moon, picked up her scarf, and walked back to the dorm. The next morning, things were worse. A chart was posted on the wall, an official one. All new students were paired for practice duels. Rhea was paired with Daya. Daya was one of the top-ranked girls. Fast, strong, brutal. This must be a joke, Daya said, smirking as she read the chart. I don't fight children. You'll fight whoever's written, said a nearby. Instructor, everyone will get 5 minutes in the ring. Let's see what you've learned. The training ground was packed. Students stood in circles as each pair stepped into the square ring. When Rhea and Daya's turn came, the crowd buzzed with excitement. 5 seconds. That's how long she lasts, one boy whispered. Rhea removed her shoes and stepped into the ring. Dia cracked her knuckles. Try not to cry. The instructor gave the signal. Dia moved fast. A high kick aimed straight at Rhea's head. Rhea ducked, not out of fear, but from memory. Her body followed the flow her grandmother taught her. Daya struck again, this time a punch to the side. Rhea twisted her waist and leaned back. The punch missed. She didn't hit back. She didn't even raise her fists. Fight, girl. Someone shouted, do something. But Rhea didn't move with anger. She simply kept flowing, each step soft, avoiding every strike. Dia's frustration grew. She screamed and rushed forward with a full body slam. But in her rush, her foot caught the edge of the mat. She slipped, crashed, and hit her shoulder. The instructor rushed to her. That's enough. Match over. Gasps filled the air. Dia was injured, her arm dislocated. Rhea stood still, her hands at her side. She hadn't landed a single hit, but she hadn't taken one either. Someone in the crowd had filmed the entire match. The video showed Rhea dancing around Dia's attacks like wind through leaves. That night, the video was uploaded to the Academy's student group. Then it was shared on social media. Girl defeats fighter without fighting. The caption, read, thousands watched. Some laughed, some were amazed. Some called it fake, but by morning, everyone knew her name. Rhea didn't care for the fame. She just wanted to survive another day. But it wasn't going to be easy. At breakfast, Viraj slammed a tray down next to her. Enjoying your popularity? He asked coldly. It wasn't a fight, she said softly. Exactly, it was a joke. He leaned closer. You think you can win with softness? You're making this academy look weak. She didn't answer. Good, he said. Then you won't mind proving yourself. You and me, tomorrow, in front of the whole academy. Her spoon froze midair, but that's not allowed. You're not I make the rules here. He stood up. If you're brave enough, step into the ring. If not, go back to your village and keep dancing. Whispers spread across the hall. Everyone stared. Rhea looked down at her scarf. Her fingers brushed the edge. That night, she didn't eat. She walked again to the forest. This time, she wasn't alone. The old man who had watched her before stood waiting. You move like her, he said quietly. Like the one who almost destroyed this academy long ago. Rhea stared at him. My grandmother. He nodded. She was the only one who didn't fight with fists, and the only one who ever defeated me. Rhea stepped back. Who are you? He smiled sadly. The man who trained your enemies. She didn't understand. He turned and walked away into the woods. You'll need more than balance tomorrow, girl, he called over his shoulder. You'll need to stand when even your soul wants to run. Rhea stood in silence. The wind blew gently. Her scarf danced in the air. Tomorrow she would face the strongest man in the academy. She had no weapons, no strength, no plan. But she had something else. Something even she couldn't name yet. And someone hidden in the forest was about to make sure she remembered it. The morning of the duel arrived like thunder. Clouds hovered low, as if the sky itself waited to see what would happen. The entire academy gathered in the central arena, open space surrounded by high stone walls. Benches were full. Students sat shoulder to shoulder. Even instructors, who usually stayed in the background, had taken front row seats. Word had spread beyond the academy. People from nearby training schools came to watch. A few were live streaming the event. All eyes were on the girl from the village, the one who hadn't thrown a single punch, but had somehow survived a fight. Rhea stood behind the curtains of the changing area. She wasn't nervous, not in the usual way. She was quiet, still. Her hands rested on the scarf tied around her waist. Her mind wasn't on victory. Her mind was on her grandmother's words. In real battles, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not hit. A knock came at the door. It was Daya, her shoulders still wrapped. You're really going through with this? She asked, not unkindly. Rhea nodded. Dia leaned on the frame. He's not like us. Viraj doesn't play fair. If he can humiliate you, he will. This isn't just a duel. He wants to break you. I know, Rhea replied. So why fight? Rhea looked down. Because if I don't, he wins anyway. The bell rang outside. A loud voice called her name. Rhea, step forward. She walked out into the arena. The wind hit her face. The sky rumbled. Across from her, Viraj stood in perfect form, muscles tight, jaw clenched. He looked like a warrior from a movie. Tall, powerful, angry. The crowd quieted. A senior instructor stepped between them. This duel is not for points. This is not practice. This is to decide one thing: whether Rhea deserves to stay in this academy. Gasps filled the air. Rhea's heart sank. She hadn't known that. Viraj smiled faintly. What? He said innocently. Should we waste time on someone who doesn't belong? Rhea's fists closed at her side. The instructor raised his hand. Begin. Viraj didn't wait. He charged forward, a blur of motion. His punch came fast, aimed at Rhea's chest. But she turned her body, soft and smooth. The punch missed. The crowd murmured. He came again, with a spinning kick. Rhea ducked. His foot missed her by inches, but this time, she stumbled. He smiled. Not so graceful now, are you? He hissed. Fight back. Rhea didn't. She kept moving sideways, backward, breathing slowly. His strikes were wild, loud, fast, but they didn't touch her. He growled, stepping closer. Coward. Rhea paused. Isn't a coward someone who uses fear to win? He swung again, this time, catching her side. Pain shot through her ribs. She fell, gasping. The audience roared. Enough. The instructor shouted, stepping forward, but Rhea raised her hand. I'm fine. She stood up slowly, wincing. Her scarf had fallen. She picked it up and tied it again. The wind blew stronger now. Her hair danced in the air. She looked at Viraj. You want me to hit you? She asked. He smirked. That would be a start. She breathed in deep, then stepped forward. Viraj prepared to block, but she didn't strike. She placed her palms softly on his chest. And then, like water rolling over rock, she flowed around him. 1 step, 2 steps. Her fingers moved in circles, not touching but guiding. Viraj tried to hit, but she spun behind him. His punch missed. Again, and then he slipped. It wasn't dramatic, just a small misstep, but he lost balance. His foot caught behind his body fell straight to the ground. Flat on his back, silence. Rhea didn't move. She stood still, looking at him. The instructor raised a hand. Match over. No one clapped, no one cheered. The silence was louder than any noise. Viraj sat up, his face red, but not from pain. From shame, he looked at Ria as if she were a puzzle he couldn't solve. Then he stood and walked away without another word. Ria turned and left the ring. But before she could reach the exit, someone stopped her, the old man from the forest. He stood at the edge, holding a wooden staff. You made him fall with his own force, he said softly. Like your grandmother once made me. Ria bowed. You knew her. I still do, he said. And you. He placed a paper in her hand. Come to the East Woods tonight. There's more to learn. He walked away before she could reply. That evening, as the sky darkened, she followed the path to the woods. The others were still talking about the duel. Some were shocked, some jealous, some scared, but Ria walked quietly. The forest smelled of wet leaves. In a small clearing, she found the old man waiting. He didn't speak. He simply raised his staff and moved. His steps were slow, like hers, like her grandmother's. Ria joined him. For hours, they trained, not with punches, not with pain, but with rhythm, with breathing, with stillness. The strongest man falls when he forgets balance, he told her, but balance is not in the feet, it's in the soul. Days passed, Ria trained silently, and something changed. Not in her, but around her. The students who once mocked her now watched her with curiosity. Some asked questions, some even asked to join her training. She taught no one, not yet. She wasn't ready, but they started calling her something new, the Quiet Storm. She didn't want a name. She just wanted to become stronger, not to defeat others, but to understand herself. But strength never grows in peace alone. One afternoon, the academy received an urgent message. A rival school had issued a challenge. They were known for their brutality. Their leader, a young man named Zoravar, was undefeated in 50 matches, and he had one rule: fight hard or fall fast. The Silver Ridge Academy had to send their top students to compete. Viraj was first to volunteer. Dia followed, others joined. But to everyone's shock, the head instructor added one more. Name, Ria. Gasps filled the hall. Even Ria blinked in surprise. I didn't ask to go, she said. The instructor nodded. But we need someone different, someone they won't see coming. Ria looked around. Some students nodded in support, others frowned. But no one laughed this time. That night, Ria stood again in the woods. The old man waited. You're not ready? He said. But that's the point. True strength comes when we say yes before we believe we can. She didn't argue. She simply moved beside him and trained. When the time came to leave for the challenge, she packed only one thing: her grandmother's scarf. As the academy van drove into the misty hills toward the rival school, no one knew what the next few days would bring. No one could guess that the quiet girl would soon face a storm greater than anything she'd known. A storm that would not just test her training, but tear open the secret her grandmother died protecting. The secret that Zoravar might already know, and the secret that could destroy her from within. The road to the rival school was long and silent. Thick fog wrapped around the van like a warning. Inside, students sat stiffly. Some stared out the windows. Others closed their eyes, pretending to rest. No one spoke to Ria, not because they hated her now, but because they didn't know what to say. Even Viraj, who once called her a joke, avoided eye contact. Ria didn't mind. Her mind was calm but alert. Her fingers gently rubbed the scarf tied around her wrist, the same one her grandmother used to wear. She could still remember her voice. People will call your silence weakness. Let them. Your strength lives in stillness, not noise. As the van turned into the gates of the Iron Fist Academy, the mood inside changed. The air felt heavier. The campus was dark. Buildings built from black stone. Students in red uniforms trained in the open yard. Their movements were sharp, violent, powerful. Their eyes followed the arriving group like hawks watching prey. At the entrance, Zoravar stood waiting. He looked nothing like a teenager. Broad shoulders, deep eyes. A scar ran across his cheek. His posture was proud, as if he already knew the outcome. He didn't greet anyone. He only spoke one sentence. Your week will fall before sunset. Then he turned and walked away. The visiting students were given rooms in an old dormitory. Ria sat near the window while others unpacked. Dia came over and whispered, don't let his size fool you. Zoravar fights with his mind first. He looks for your fear before he throws a punch. Ria nodded. Let him look. That evening, the challenges began. It was tradition. When two schools met, they held 3 days of duels, not for trophies but for honor. On the first night, the younger students fought. Ria watched every match. The Iron Fist fighters moved like wolves, aggressive, ruthless. The Silver Ridge, students tried to match power with power and failed. 2 matches were won, 4 were lost. Dia barely won her round. Blood dripped from her lip as she returned to the bench. Ria handed her a cloth. They hit too fast, Dia said, breathing hard, but they also lose balance when they rush. Ria had seen it. The Iron Fist technique was violent, but it was not patient. The next day, the seniors fought. Viraj entered the ring with fire in his eyes. His opponent was larger, louder, but not smarter. Viraj moved with purpose, his anger now shaped into skill. He won, and for the first time, Ria saw him smile not out of pride, but out of relief. When he stepped down, He didn't look at the crowd. He walked to Rhea and said quietly, "You're the reason I changed." She didn't respond. She didn't need to. That night, Rhea walked outside the dorm alone. The moon was hidden behind clouds. The trees swayed in cold wind. She stood in the empty courtyard, eyes closed, breathing slow. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. "Zorovar, you're the one they whisper about," he said. "The girl who made the strongest fall without throwing a punch." Rhea opened her eyes. "I didn't make him fall. He lost balance." "And you," he said, "do you think you have balance?" Rhea stayed still. Zorovar took a step closer. "Your grandmother trained here, years ago? Did they tell you that?" Her eyes narrowed. "She left this place. She walked away." "She ran," he corrected. "After what happened to my brother?" Rhea's heart jumped. "Your brother?" Zorovar nodded slowly. "He was her last opponent. No one ever saw the match. But after that night, she disappeared. And my brother was never the same." Rhea clenched her fists. "She never hurt anyone, didn't she?" he asked. "Then why did she leave without saying goodbye?" He turned and walked away. "You think you're strong? Let's see if your balance can survive truth." The next morning, the arena was filled early. This was the final day, the final round, and Rhea's name was called first. She stepped forward. Across the ring stood her opponent, not Zorovar but his top student, a girl named Kieran. Calm, but deadly. As the match began, Kieran came at her like lightning. Fast, low, sharp. Rhea dodged, then turned. Kieran kicked again. Rhea blocked with her arm. The crowd leaned forward. This wasn't like before. Kieran wasn't wild. She was focused. Her strikes weren't rushed. They were trained. And Rhea began to feel something new push her. She stepped back, controlling her breathing, but Kieran smiled. "No one to protect you here," she whispered mid-fake. "You fall, you stay down." Rhea stayed silent, but her heartbeat rose. A sharp jab caught her shoulder. Pain flared. She stumbled slightly. Kieran attacked again, aiming for the same spot. Rhea turned just in time, but her balance broke. She dropped to one knee. Gasps echoed. Kieran stepped forward, ready to finish. But Rhea looked uphand, smiled. A soft, small smile. Then she rolled sideways, grabbed Kieran's arm, and redirected her forward. Kieran flew past, lost control, and slammed into the mat. Silence. The instructor raised his hand. Match over. Rhea stood slowly. Her arm ached, her shoulder throbbed, but she had one. Kieran didn't speak. She only looked up at Rhea, eyes wide, breath short. "You didn't hit me," she whispered. Rhea helped her stand. "You hit yourself?" she replied. Later that day, Zorovar made his move. He stepped into the arena without announcement. "One more match," he said. "One that matters." He looked straight at Rhea. "Me, and you." The instructors looked at each other. This wasn't part of the plan, but the audience cheered. The students from both schools stood. All wanted to see it. Rhea walked to the ring. She didn't speak. She only removed her scarf and tied it tighter. Zorovar cracked his knuckles. "Let's see what your silence hides." The bell rang. He moved first. Not too fast. Not too slow. Testing her. His arms stayed close. His feet moved in circles. Rhea mirrored him. She didn't strike. Neither did he then. Without warning, he feinted left and kicked right. Rhea blocked, but the impact sent a shock through her ribs. He moved again, elbow, fist, knee. Rhea dodged the first, blocked the second, but the third grazed her hip. She winced. He saw it. "You're not like her," he said. She was faster, stronger. Rhea spun low and kicked, but he leaped over it. She backed up, breathing harder. He circled her again. "Do you even know what happened that night?" he asked. "The night she broke my brother's mind." Rhea stared at him. She didn't hurt him. Zorovar's eyes burned. He was never the same. He stopped training, stopped speaking. She took something from him, and never looked back. Rhea's hands shook. Doubt crept in. Her grandmother had told her so many stories, but never this. What if he was right? What if there was more? Zorovar charged. His punch slammed into her shoulder. She stumbled. The crowd gasped. She dropped to one knee. Zorovar raised his arm for the final blow. "Now you fall," he said. But Rhea didn't. "Stay down." She looked up and remembered her grandmother's voice. "Your stillness is not weakness. It is waiting, listening." She exhaled slowly, then rose. Her hands moved in circles. Her feet light. Zorovar came again, but she flowed like wind. His fist missed. His knee grazed air. She spun, moved behind him, placed her palm on his back, and pushed not hard, but just enough. He turned off balance. His foot slipped and he fell, not hard but completely, onto his knees. The crowd froze. The bell hadn't even rung yet, but they had seen it. The strongest man on campus had fallen to silence. Zorovar looked up at her. His face was red, not with anger, but with something else. Understanding. She didn't break him, he whispered. He broke because he couldn't accept being defeated. By calm, Rhea offered him a hand. "Maybe it's time we stop calling Balance Week." He took it and stood. The instructor walked forward. Match over. The crowd exploded. Cheers rose. Hands clapped. Students from both schools shouted her name. Rhea didn't smile. She just stepped back, breathing deep. Later that night, a small box was delivered to her room. No name, no note. Inside it was an old photograph. Her grandmother, younger, standing, with Zorovar's brother, both smiling. On the back a message was written in fading ink. Not all battles need winners. Just truth. Ria closed the box slowly. Tomorrow, they would return home, but she now knew this journey was just beginning, because somewhere in her grandmother's past, a door had been left half open, and someone still wanted it closed. Ria stood alone near the training grounds, watching the others laugh and stretch as the early morning sun warmed the field. Her feet were still sore from yesterday's match. Her arms ached, her heart was calm but her mind was busy. She had not hit anyone. She had not fought back, and yet she had not lost. Tia, the girl who had insulted her and challenged her, was in the medical wing. Not because of Ria's strength but because of her own rage. Still, the whispers had already started. She got lucky. That was a fluke. She's just weird. Ria didn't respond to any of them. Instead, she focused on the wind. Every morning, she trained alone behind the academy, near the oldest tree. The ground there was uneven, the air was cooler. It reminded her of her village, of her grandmother's voice, of the strange steps, slow movements, deep breathing that most people didn't understand. She's dancing, not fighting. She heard one boy say the other day. Ria didn't care, because this dance had kept her standing while Dia had fallen. But things weren't done yet, not even close. Around noon, a loud drum echoed across the academy. Everyone stopped. A banner was rolled down from the main tower. On it were two names written in bold red letters. RHEABS, VIRAJ, TOMOROWO. Rora looked up. She blinked. She didn't understand. Why was her name up there? Why was she facing Viraj, the strongest student, the favorite of the academy, the son of the founder? No one dared to fight him unless they were already ranked top 3. He had defeated dozens fast and hard. He had mocked Ria on her first day, and now this. She turned to find the answer, but the answer came walking toward her. Viraj stood tall, muscles tight under his sleeveless uniform, hair tied back like a prince, his golden pendant shining in the sunlight. He smiled without warmth. You said nothing last time, he said, so I'm giving you a stage. Ria stayed silent. You embarrassed Aya, he continued, made her cry. She's my friend. I didn't touch her. Ria replied softly. Exactly, he grinned. That's what makes it so humiliating. Students around them started to whisper. Why are you doing this? She asked. Viraj's smile faded. Because this academy was built on strength. And you're not strength, you're silence, stillness. That doesn't belong here. He stepped closer. So tomorrow, you either fight me or leave. And with that, he walked away. Rest of the day passed in tension. Everyone talked about the coming match. Some said Ria would forfeit. Others laughed, saying she'd get crushed in seconds. Only one person believed otherwise, and that person hadn't spoken to anyone in years. That night, as Ria practiced alone, near the old tree, a small wooden cane tapped the ground behind her. She turned slowly. An old man stood watching her, thin, wrinkled, with kind but serious eyes. The master of the academy, the founder's teacher. No one had seen him speak in 5 years. Some thought he had lost his voice. Others thought he had given up teaching. But there he was, standing in front of her. He looked at her, scarf, then her feet, then the movement she had just done. That style, he said, voice dry but deep. Where did you learn it? Ria swallowed hard. My grandmother, he nodded slowly. She was once here, he said. Ria's eyes widened. What? She trained at this academy? Long ago, before the rules changed, before the fighting became a game. He walked closer. She used to practice in this same spot. Ria couldn't believe it. She told me this place didn't believe in her. She whispered. She was right, the master replied. Her style was slow, gentle, focused on balance, breath, connection. He touched her shoulder lightly, but do not mistake it for weakness. Ria felt a warmth in her chest. I can help you, he said. I can show you what she never got the chance to finish. Ria looked into his eyes, but only under one condition, he added. She nodded. You cannot use it to hurt, only to awaken. Ria smiled. I promise. They trained through the night. No one knew, except for one. A figure in black stood behind the trees, hidden in shadow, holding a phone recording everything. He sent the footage to Viraj's father with a simple message. The old man has returned. With her, by morning, the academy was buzzing. Viraj stood at the center of the courtyard, stretching, smiling, flexing for the crowd. Ria arrived late. No one clapped, no one welcomed her. She didn't need it. She walked with calm steps, her grandmother's scarf tied around her waist like a belt as she stepped onto the stone mat. A teacher leaned in to whisper, you don't have to do this. You can still back out. Ria simply bowed and waited. Viraj cracked his knuckles. You ready, mountain girl? Ria didn't reply. Let's give them a show, he said. The bell rang. What followed shocked everyone. Viraj attacked with speed. Left jab, spin, sweep. Ria didn't block. She didn't dodge wildly. She moved, just enough. Each attack missed her. By inches, she was still calm. Still quiet. People started leaning in. Was she lucky? Was she reading his moves? Viraj's smile faded. He growled and went harder, faster, stronger. Rhea kept moving softly, with the wind, with the breath. Each of his punches came close, but never connected. And then, she placed her foot down firm and stopped moving. Viraj saw his chance. He jumped in with a flying kick. But Rhea simply turned not to run, but to land. She landed with her feet rooted. She didn't hit back, but the sound of her step, the stillness of her pose made Viraj twist. Awkwardly mid-air, he crashed into the ground. Gasps. He got up quickly, angry, his face red, sweat dripping. You think this is a joke? Rhea said nothing. The master watched from above, his face still, his hands tight on the railing. The match wasn't over, but something had changed. The audience had gone. Quiet Viraj was no longer the hunter. He was confused. He didn't understand her, and that fear grew inside him. Rhea breathed in deeply, then took a step forward. Viraj stepped back. Just one, people noticed. Viraj noticed. He got madder, shouted, ran forward and used a forbidden move. He grabbed her by the shoulders, twisted and slammed her hard to the ground. Her head hit the stone. A loud crack. Silence. She didn't move. The referee hesitated. Was this a win? Was it even fair? The crowd murmured. Some screamed. A teacher ran forward. But before he could reach her, Rhea moved her fingers just a little. Then her eyes opened. She winced, pushed herself up. Blood dripped from her forehead. She stood slowly, bowed again. Her scarf had fallen. She picked it up and tied it back around her waist. Tighter, the master whispered to himself. Just like her grandmother, Viraj stood frozen. He had broken the rules. And yet she was still standing, not fighting, not shouting, but standing. And the crowd could feel that something powerful was happening. Rhea took a step forward. Again, Viraj stepped back again. He tried to swing, missed, tried to kick, blocked, tried to grab, slipped, and then he fell. On his knees, breathing hard, looking up at her like a lost child. Rhea looked down but didn't speak, didn't smile. She simply bowed, turned, and walked away. The crowd didn't cheer, not yet. They didn't know what to feel. The strongest boy in the academy just lost to someone who never raised her fist, and then a voice rang out, angry, sharp, stop. It was Viraj's father. He stormed down the steps, his face red with rage. This is not martial arts. He yelled, this is manipulation. This is witchcraft. He pointed at Rhea. You are not welcome here. Gasps. The master stood, eyes locked. With the founder, it is not your academy alone, he said. You built it on strength. I built it on truth. The founder growled. She fights like a ghost. The master smiled. She fights like a mirror. The episode ends with both masters standing face to face. Students frozen between tradition and truth. Rhea walks away quietly, her scarf stained with blood but her eyes brighter than ever. Behind her, Viraj remains on his knees, silent, confused, and completely broken. Cut to black. Rhea sat under the old tree, her back pressed against the rough bark, her scarf folded neatly beside her. Blood had dried on her forehead, her arms were bruised, her legs trembled when she tried to stand. But none of that mattered now, because, for the first time in her life, they had seen her not just as a quiet girl from a far-off mountain, not just as a nobody, but as someone impossible to ignore. But respect did not come easily. The academy was now divided. Some students walked past her and nodded, quiet respect in their eyes. Others glared, muttering, she tricked him. It was luck. He held back. But Rhea knew the truth. Viraj didn't hold back. He used everything. And still, he had fallen. In the main tower, a storm was building. Viraj's father, Master Dev, walked in circles around the hall. His fists clenched. He wasn't just angry. He was afraid. Do you know what this means? He snapped at the other teachers. If that girl's style spreads, we lose control. One teacher raised a hand nervously. But master, she didn't even strike. Exactly, Dev shouted. And yet she humiliated him. What will sponsors say? What will the council say? That our strongest student was defeated by silence. He turned to the board behind him, where photos of past champions hung. His son's picture was already up there. Rhea's name was not. It ends now, he said. Meanwhile, deep inside the dormitory, Viraj lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. His arms were still sore from the fight. But what hurt more was the silence. No cheers, no applause, no proud father, waiting outside the medical wing. He had trained for 10 years to be unbeatable, and in one afternoon, that image shattered. He remembered how she looked at him without anger, without pity, just stillness. Like she didn't need to win, like she already had. The next morning, the academy held a surprise assembly. All students were ordered to stand in the courtyard. Master Dev stood on the main platform, dressed in full ceremonial robes. He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. As you all know, he began, this academy was built on strength, speed, and courage. But yesterday, something else was shown. Something confusing, something dangerous. Whispers ran through the crowd. Master Dev continued, that's why, starting today, we are introducing a new rule, a new exam, a final challenge. He held up a scroll. In 7 days, all ranked students will participate in the trial of fire. Gasps. It was a legendary test. Rumors said it hadn't been done in decades. It was dangerous, long, brutal, and, worst of all, designed to break the spirit, not just the body. One student dared to ask, "What if we fail?" Master Dev smiled cruelly. "Then you leave the academy." Later that day, the whispers turned into fear. No one survives the trial without help. It's impossible alone. They're targeting her. And Ria knew it too. She stood in front of the announcement board. Her name listed first under trial of fire participants. Her name and Viraj's. They were going to face the same test again that night. Someone knocked on her door. It was soft, hesitant. Ria opened it slowly and found Viraji standing there, bruised, tired, and unsure. He didn't say anything at first. She stepped aside. He entered. Silence filled the room until finally he spoke. "I want to train with you." Ria blinked. "What?" "I don't understand what you did," he said. "I've fought dozens. I've won all my life. But against you, I didn't feel weak. I felt seen, and I didn't like what I saw in myself." She nodded slowly. "And now, I want to learn," he said. "Not to beat you, but to change." Ria said nothing. Instead, she picked up her scarf and walked out the door. He followed. They trained under the stars, near the same tree. For hours, she didn't teach him punches. She taught him to breathe, to listen, to feel the ground under his feet. At first, he resisted, laughed, got frustrated, but slowly, he began to let go. He stopped shouting, stopped rushing, started listening. One night, as they practiced side by side, the old master appeared again. He said nothing, just watched, and nodded. The trial of fire began with the sunrise. All students stood before the mountain trail, eyes wide with fear. It was no ordinary test. They had to run through the forest, climb cliffs, cross rivers, face traps, and survive the wilderness all in one day. Ria and Viraj stood at the front. Master Dev gave the signal, and they ran. The forest was thick. Vines caught ankles. Thorns scratched skin. Rocks rolled underfoot. Some fell behind early. Some tried shortcuts and got lost. But Ria moved like she belonged there. She felt the wind shift, heard water nearby. She followed nature. Viraj followed her. Hours passed. They reached the river. Fast, dangerous, full of sharp stones. Ria paused. Others jumped in and screamed. Viraj looked at her. She pointed upstream. They walked for 10 minutes and found a narrow bend with stepping stones. Others followed. She had saved them pain, even danger. The students began whispering to each other, "She's helping us." But the hardest part came after sunset. The final climb. A vertical cliff, cold, slippery, and high. The finish line was on top. Some students cried, others refused to climb. Ria didn't wait. She placed her hand on the stone and climbed slowly, feeling every crack, every root. Viraj went next, then others. Halfway up, a scream rang out. One student slipped. Viraj tried to reach him but missed. The boy fell onto a ledge below, unconscious. Master Dev stood far behind, watching coldly. "Weak will fall," he muttered. But Ria turned around. She climbed back down, wrapped her scarf around the boy's waist, tied the other end around her own, and pulled him up. Everyone stared in disbelief. She reached the top last, but when she did, she wasn't alone. She had brought someone with her. The academy could no longer stay silent. Students clapped, then teachers even smiled, his eyes wet. The old master stood on the tower, holding her scarf like a flag. But as the cheers echoed across the courtyard, Master Dev turned and walked away, furious into the shadows, where a man waited in a black cloak. He handed Master Dev a document. "I have what you asked for," the man said. Dev opened it. Inside were photos of a woman, old, gray-haired, holding a young girl, Ria, as a child, and next to her a mark, a tattoo, hidden by the scarf. Dev's eyes burned. "I knew it," he whispered. "She's her granddaughter." Part ends with Dev whispering to himself in the dark. If the mother was banned, the child cannot stay. He tears the paper in half and begins to plan something darker, something cruel. Ria has passed the test, but now the academy itself has become the enemy. The courtyard was full of whispers. She saved a student in the trial. She didn't even try to win. She just helped, and she still reached the top. By morning, every student in the academy knew her name. Ria. But more than that, they respected her now, not just for how she fought, but for who she was. She walked quietly through the halls, scarf tied neatly around her wrist. Bruises covered her hands, but her eyes were calm, unshaken. Viraj walked beside her, his pace slower than usual. He still carried pride, but now, it looked different, quieter, softer. As they passed by younger students, heads bowed respectfully. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. She was someone they looked up to. But peace doesn't last long in places where power is worshipped. Behind closed doors, Master Dev sat alone. He stared at the torn photograph on his desk. Half of it showed Ria as a child. The other half showed her grandmother, a woman with sharp eyes and a long braid, standing in front of the burning ruins of an old academy. His hands trembled as he ran his fingers over the mark on the paper. "The forbidden art," he muttered. "She's from that bloodline." The door creaked open. It was the cloaked man again. "She doesn't know the truth," he whispered. "Yet, Dev stood, his voice low and dangerous. Then it's time she does. That afternoon an announcement echoed through the academy. All students arena. Now they gathered fast, confused, some excited, some nervous. A large platform had been built overnight. On it stood Master Dev and a few senior instructors. Ria stood at the edge of the crowd, uncertain beside her. Viraj clenched his fists. Something felt wrong. Master Dev raised his hand. Students, he said, today we reveal a truth that has been hidden for too long. He pulled out the torn photograph. Held it high. This girl you'd cheer for, this so-called hero, is hiding a past that could destroy this academy. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ria's heart pounded. Her chest tightened. She is the granddaughter of Senavarma traitor, a fugitive, and the woman who once burned down the northern dojo, killing 5 masters. The crowd fell silent. Even the wind paused. No, Ria whispered. That's not true. Master Dev turned toward her. Remove your scarf, Ria, he said. Show them the mark on your arm. She took a step back, shaking. No, she said. My grandmother raised me in the mountains. She told me she left everything behind. She lied. Dev roared. And now, you bring her poison into our walls. Viraj stepped forward, face pale. Master, this isn't right. Silence. Dev shouted. You defend her, boy, even after what you've heard. I've trained with her, Viraj said, voice trembling but steady. She doesn't fight like a traitor. She fights like someone who listens. Dev laughed bitterly. She doesn't fight like anything. That's the danger. She deflects. She waits. She resists. And yet she wins. He turned to the crowd. This is not strength. This is deception. He pointed at Ria. From this moment on, you are no longer a student of this academy. The words hit her like a stone. Everything she had worked for gone. Just like that. The crowd parted as 2 guards stepped forward. They didn't grab her, but they made it clear she was to leave. Ria didn't cry. She didn't plead. She looked at Viraj, who took a step forward, but she shook her head. I'll go, she whispered, but I won't run. She turned, walked slowly. Out of the arena, out of the place she once hoped to belong. She walked for hours that night. Into the forest, past the cliffs, back to the mountains, where she first learned to move with the wind. She built a small fire and sat in silence. Her scarf rested in her lap. She stared at the hidden mark on her wrist. It was shaped like a flame inside a circle, the symbol of her grandmother's clan. She closed her eyes and remembered the last words her grandmother ever said. There will be a day when they'll fear you, not because you're dangerous, but because you don't need their approval to rise. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Back at the academy, Viraj was restless. He trained harder than ever, but it wasn't the same. Every punch felt hollow, every movement empty. His respect for Master Dev had turned to doubt. He went to the old archives at night. Secretly. Searched for records of Senavarma, found burned files, half-told stories, but one document stood out. A letter written by one of the masters, who had survived the fire. It said, Senavarma didn't burn the dojo. She saved it from corrupt leaders using forbidden techniques on children. She exposed them, and they tried to kill her. She fled with her granddaughter. I owe her my life. Viraj stared at the paper, and everything inside him changed. The next day, the courtyard was full again, but the mood was dark. Master Dev stood before the students, smiling proudly. We have removed the threat, he said. But then a student stepped forward, then another, and another. Viraj walked straight to the front. We want her back, he said. She belongs here. Dev's eyes narrowed. This is rebellion. Viraj nodded. Then, maybe we've all learned from her. The crowd murmured in agreement. Dev's hand trembled in rage. Far away, in the mountains, Ria stood on a cliff's edge, eyes closed. She felt the wind shift. Something in her heart pulsed, a whisper in her mind. They're calling for you. She opened her eyes, and began the walk back. Back at the academy, Master Dev gathered a group of elite fighters, his private guards. She will return, he said darkly, and when she does? He didn't finish the sentence. Because behind him the sky began to thunder. The part ends as Ria's silhouette appears on the horizon, scar flowing behind her in the wind. She has returned, but this time not to prove herself, but to protect what she once wanted to belong to. The clouds above the academy grew darker as the wind picked up. Students stood frozen in the courtyard, staring at the mountain path. A single figure walked down slowly, strong, calm, and unafraid. It was Ria. Her scarf blew in the wind like a flag. She looked different now, still gentle, still quiet. But behind her eyes was something new, certainty. Master Dev watched from the top steps of the main hall. She dares to return, he whispered, but there was a flicker of doubt in his voice. He turned to his guards. All of you, block the gates. She steps 1 foot inside, and she's done. But it was already too late, because students were moving. Viraj walked to the edge of the courtyard. He extended a hand toward her, and one by one, the students began walking with him, forming a line. They stood between Ria and the guards. Ria didn't stop. She walked through the line of students. Past Viraj, not one guard moved. They weren't just afraid, they were ashamed. Master Dev stormed down the stairs. His voice boomed across the stones. You come back here like a hero, he shouted. You have no right. Ria stopped walking. She didn't raise her voice. I didn't come back for approval, she said softly. I came to speak the truth. Dev laughed bitterly. Your bloodline carries poison. What truth? Could someone like you possibly know? Rhea looked at the students gathered around. Then she raised her hand and untied her scarf. The flame mark on her wrist glowed slightly in the sunlight. I used to hate this mark, she said. I thought it was a curse, a symbol of disgrace. But now, I know it's a reminder. She looked straight at Dev. My grandmother wasn't the traitor. She was the one who tried to stop you. Gasps echoed around her. Dev's face darkened. He took a step forward, his voice shaking with rage. You know nothing. I know you hid the truth, she said. I know you erased records. Lied to students called silent strength. She pulled a scroll from her sleeve. Viraj stepped forward, helping her open it. It was the letter, the one written by the surviving master from the northern dojo. The one that said, Senavarma saved Liz, was punished for it. This isn't just about my past, Rhea said. This is about how you're still doing it. Choosing power over people, silence over truth. The crowd was still. Every student stared at the scroll, at Rhea's calm voice. And then at Master Dev, who now looked like a cornered animal. Then he smiled a cold, cruel smile. You think words will protect you, he growled. You think these children will follow you into rebellion? He raised his hand. From the shadows, his elite guards stepped forward. 5 of them, each one in black armor, faces hidden. Dev pointed to Rhea. Bring her down. The courtyard exploded into chaos. Rhea didn't move, but Viraj stepped in front, of her arms raised. Before the guards could reach them, students rushed forward. Dozens. They didn't attack. They didn't shout. They stood, forming a shield around her, a wall of unity. It was the first time in the academy's history that students stood not by rank or power, but for a person. Dev roared in frustration. Step aside. But no one moved. Even some instructors were looking away now, ashamed of their silence. Suddenly, one of the elite guards pulled off his helmet. He stepped away from the line. Then another did the same, and another 3 of them walked toward Rhea and knelt. We remember, Sena, one of them said. She protected us once. We won't forget it again. Now only 2 guards remained. Master Dev's face turned red with fury. You'll regret this, he shouted, but his voice wasn't commanding anymore. It was desperate. Rhea stepped forward. Slowly. Dev, you're afraid, she said gently. Dev's hand shook. You're afraid because your power comes from fear. Mine doesn't. She stood just a few feet from him now. I don't need to fight you. That's what scares you most. Dev screamed and charged, a flash of anger. A blow aimed at her chest, but she didn't move. She simply turned. His punch missed. He stumbled forward. Off balance, she touched his wrist just enough to push him off his center. He crashed to the ground. Silenced. Every eye watched. Rhea stepped back, and Dev didn't get up. Not because he was injured, because he was defeated. Senior instructors stepped forward. One of them, the oldest, walked to Rhea. He bowed, and then turned to the students. This academy belongs to the next generation, he said. We forgot that. She reminded us. He looked at Dev, still on the ground. I think it's time for new leadership. Dev didn't argue. He didn't even lift his head. Later that evening, the courtyard was quiet again, but it wasn't empty. Students lit lanterns. Rhea stood under the largest tree, scarf wrapped around her hand again. Viraj walked up beside her. You could have destroyed him, he said. She nodded. But then I would have become him. He smiled. I think you've changed everything. She looked around, not with pride, but with peace. I didn't come to change them, she said. I came to find my place. He looked at her, and did. You, she nodded slowly. I did. As the wind rustled the leaves, the screen fades to black. But just before it does, an old woman's voice is heard. It's Senavarma, in a world full of fists. The one who stands calm is the strongest of all. A week had passed since Master Dev was removed. The academy had changed. Lanterns now stayed lit after training hours. Laughter returned to the halls. The silence that once felt heavy, now felt calm. But something darker was brewing in the shadows, and Rhea could feel it. She couldn't explain it, but every time she walked past the southern gates, she felt eyes on her. Not from the students, from somewhere beyond. That morning, during training, an unexpected visitor arrived. The messenger was breathless. Dirt on his face, fear in his eyes. He handed a letter to the senior master, a seal with the mark of the Mountain Fangs, a rogue clan disbanded years ago. The elder opened the scroll and read. His face turned pale. He passed the scroll to Rhea. She read the words slowly. You stole what was promised. You dishonored the old vow. We come at dawn. Let the new voice face the ancient silence. Viraj looked over her shoulder. The Mountain Fangs? He said. They were destroyed. No, the elder replied. They went underground. We thought they vanished. We were wrong. That night, a secret meeting was held in the Grand Hall. Only Rhea, Viraj, and the 4 senior instructors were present. They were allies of Dev. One instructor explained. 30 years ago, they tried to take control of the southern territories by force, and were banished. Another added, but Dev protected their names. He hoped to use them one day. Rhea leaned forward. They're coming for the academy. Yes, the elder nodded. And for you, Outside, students practiced late into the night. They had heard rumors, whispers, but no one panicked, because something had shifted. The academy no longer followed fear, it followed something else, something stronger. It followed trust. At dawn, the ground shook. The southern path echoed with marching feet. Figures in dark gray armor appeared at the horizon. At least 50. Face masks, silent steps, blades drawn. Rhea stood at the gate. No sword, no shield, only her scarf wrapped tightly around her wrist. Viraj came to stand beside her. You don't have to do this alone. I know, she said softly, but I have to face their leader alone. The mountain fangs stopped just before the gates. One of them stepped forward, a tall man with a twisted scar down his cheek. I am Kale, he said, blood of the ancient vow, voice of the silence. His eyes locked on. Rhea, you took the place of the lion, without earning the roar. I didn't take anything, Rhea replied calmly. I stood up when others were silent. Kale pulled a blade from his belt and pointed it at her. Then face me. In single combat. Prove your worth. Gasps spread through the crowd behind her. The elders hesitated, but Rhea nodded. I accept. She stepped forward beyond the gate. Viraj grabbed her arm gently. Be careful, he whispered. He doesn't fight to win. He fights to destroy. Rhea smiled softly. Then he's already lost. The circle was drawn in the dust. The sky above turned orange with morning light. Kale swung first fast. Violent. Rhea ducked, then stepped back. He struck again. She dodged out again. She turned. Light on her feet. Kale snarled. You dance like a girl. I am a girl, she said. And I dance because I know where to land. He lunged, but she sidestepped again, touched his elbow, and twisted. Kale stumbled, rage in his eyes, but the students watching saw something else. She wasn't just surviving. She was teaching him, teaching everyone, that strength wasn't speed. It wasn't rage. It was clarity. Kale roared and launched a spinning kick. It missed. He fell to one knee. Rhea walked around him slowly. You were trained in silence, she said, but silence is not peace. It's fear in disguise. He grunted, forcing himself up. You think words can win battles? No, she replied, but they build futures. And then she stepped forward. One simple motion placed her hand on his chest and pushed. He fell again, and this time, stayed down. The fangs behind him stood, still. Waiting, but then something happened no one expected. Kale removed his mask and bowed. To her, then slowly turned to his own warriors. She's the voice, he said. Not because she shouted, because she listened. The fangs dropped their weapons. One by one. The courtyard was silent for a long moment. Then the students cheered. Viraj rushed forward and lifted Rhea in his arms, spinning her around. You did it. She shook her head gently. We did it. But, far above, on the roof of the grand hall, hidden in the shadows, a figure watched with narrowed eyes. A woman, face covered in silver. She whispered into a small stone. Magical, ancient. She passed the test. Now move to phase 2. Her blood will lead us to the gate. The academy was peaceful again. The mountain fangs had left quietly, their weapons lowered. Their leader changed. Students trained harder now, not because they feared anyone, but because they were inspired. Rhea's name echoed through the halls. Many, she was a symbol of strength. But Rhea didn't feel stronger. She felt something else, restless every night since the duel. She woke from strange dreams. A dark cave, a burning voice, a door made of stone with her name carved on it. One morning, while practicing alone near the waterfall cliffs, Rhea saw her scarf fluttering in the wind. Only, she hadn't brought her scarf. It was tied on a tree branch. The same scarf she had lost 3 years ago. The same scarf her mother gave her before vanishing. Rhea froze. She looked around. No one, just silence. Then a whisper. Soft. Too soft to hear clearly, but it sounded like ... Come. She followed the wind, her heart pounding. Down the slope, into the forest, past the old stone well. There, in the middle of the clearing, stood the woman in silver, the one who watched from the roof that day. Her face was hidden, but her voice was calm. You don't know who you are, she said. I know enough, Rhea, replied the woman. Stepped closer. You were born in the Valley of Echoes. Your bloodline carries the old magic. Rhea's breath caught. My mother was from the valley. She was more than that, the woman said. She was the keeper of the gate. What gate? Rhea asked, stepping back. The one buried deep below this land, the woman replied. The gate of silence. It seals away a power so dangerous, even the stars fear it. And what does that have to do with me? You're the next keeper. Rhea's hands shook. No, I'm just a student. I'm not special. The woman's eyes glowed beneath the silver veil. Your power was sealed when you were a baby, but it's waking now. The dreams, the whispers, the fire in your hands? Rhea gasped. She had never told anyone, but once when she was 6 she had accidentally set fire to her blanket, just by screaming. The woman walked in a circle around her. Your enemies will come not with swords but with memories. If they unlock the gate before you do, the world will forget its voice. Rhea whispered. What do I do? Find the key, the woman replied. It lies where your tears once fell. And then she vanished. Just like that. That night, Rhea stood near the training fields, her mind spinning. Viraj found her there, sitting on the stone bench. Are you okay? He asked. I don't know, she replied. She told him everything. The woman, the gate, the magic. He didn't laugh. He didn't doubt. He just nodded. Then we'll find the key. They began the search the next day, starting with her old village. Rhea had not been back there since her mother vanished. The village was quiet now, most houses empty, doors broken, the wind whistling through cracked windows. She walked slowly to the well in the center, and there she saw it. Her old doll, the one her mother had sewn for her, tied around its neck, was a tiny locket. She opened it. Inside was a folded piece of paper, yellow with age, a map, and a line written in her mother's handwriting. The voice sleeps beneath the lake of stillness. Rhea and Viraj followed the map for 3 days. They crossed rivers, climbed rocks, slept under cold stars. On the 4th day they reached the lake of stillness. It was silent, no ripples, no birds, only the reflection of the sky. In the center of the lake was a stone platform barely visible from shore. That must be it, Viraj whispered. They built a small raft and paddled across. As soon as Rhea stepped on the stone, it began to glow. The water around it shimmered. And then with a deep rumble a staircase appeared beneath the lake, spiraling downward. I'm going in, Rhea said. Viraj hesitated. I'll wait here. If you're not back in an hour, I'm diving in, she smiled weakly. Deal. The stairs led to a hidden cave. Torches lit automatically as she passed. At the center of the chamber was a pedestal, and on it, a silver sphere. She touched it. It pulsed with warmth. Suddenly her mind filled with images of her mother holding her as a baby, of voices chanting, of a gate made of crystal and stone. Then a dark shadow appeared in the vision, a figure with no face. Covered in smoke, it whispered, "You are too late." Rhea gasped and stepped back. The sphere cracked, and from the shadows of the cave they came. Figures in black robes, no eyes, no mouths. They floated above the ground. The silent ones, creatures that served the darkness beyond the gate. She tried to run, but one of them raised a hand. Rhea froze in place, paralyzed. She heard their whisper not with her ears, but inside her mind, "You are the key. Your voice will break the seal. You belong to us now." Her throat tightened, her heartbeat slowed. But just then, boom, the roof of the cave exploded. Viraj had jumped in, sword drawn. He swung wildly, knocking one of the silent ones away. "Rhea," he shouted, "use your voice." She couldn't move, couldn't speak, until she remembered what the woman had said. "The power is inside you, sealed, sleeping, but waiting." Rhea took a deep breath and screamed, not in fear, in truth, a deep, ringing scream that echoed across the chamber like thunder. The silent ones shrieked. Cracks appeared on the walls. The sphere shattered, and a beam of light shot up from the pedestal. Rhea fell to her knees. Breathing hard, the creatures were gone, but the cave was collapsing. Viraj grabbed her hand. "Come on." They ran up the staircase, the water crashing behind them, just as they reached the surface. The lake shook and the platform sank beneath the waves. They sat on the shore, coughing, soaked. Rhea looked at her hand. A symbol had appeared there, a small circle with lines radiating like sun rays. "The mark of the keeper," she whispered. Viraj stared at the lake. "What happens now?" Rhea looked toward the horizon. Now, she knew the gate wasn't just real. It was calling her, and the enemy was already ahead of her. Far away, in a hidden mountain, the woman in silver stood before a giant stone gate covered in runes. Beside her stood a dark figure, Kale. Only now his eyes were red. His face was no longer scarred but smooth, like porcelain, and he spoke with a voice that didn't sound like his. "The key has awakened." The woman nodded. "And soon she will open the gate for us?" The mark on Rhea's hand hadn't faded. It glowed faintly every night, especially when she was near fire or water. Back at the academy, everything seemed normal, but she knew it wasn't. The truth was out now. She was the key. The gate was real, and something was coming. Master Rayon called her to his chambers the day she returned. He had heard whispers from the monks in the north, strange winds, vanishing stars, dreams shared across miles, and a shadow moving through old temples. "What did you find at the lake?" he asked gently. Rhea hesitated. Then she told him everything, from the silver woman to the silent ones too. The Mark Rayon listened in silence. Then he opened a drawer, placed something on the table, a broken compass. It spun even when still. It vibrated in her presence. "This was your mother's," he said. "She left it here the day she disappeared. I think she knew this day would come." Rhea clenched her fists. "I want to understand. I want to fight, but I don't know how." Ray looked at her with quiet pride. "You don't need to know everything yet, just the next step. The compass will guide you." "But where?" He pointed at the spinning needle. "Where your mother was last seen, the Temple of Still Breaths." Rhea didn't go alone. Viraj came, and so did 2 others. Tanu, a quiet girl with healing magic, and Jory, the loud boy with twin daggers, who once teased Rhea in her early days. But they trusted her now, because they'd seen the impossible and she had survived it. The journey to the temple took 4 days. Storms followed them. Wolves stalked them. Once, the moon itself turned red in the sky. But finally, they stood before the ancient doors. The Temple of Still Breaths. It looked abandoned. Vines covered the walls. Statues were cracked. A silence hung so thick it hurt to breathe. They stepped inside, torches flickering. The halls were lined with mirrors, each one reflected their faces but different, older, sadder, twisted. Rhea saw herself with fire in her eyes and ash on her hands. Tanu screamed suddenly. One of the mirrors had cracked on its own. "Don't look too long," Jory whispered. "It shows what you fear becoming." They moved on. At the center of the temple stood a stone basin, and above it floating midair was a crystal shard. It pulsed softly. The moment Rhea stepped forward, the room shook. A voice echoed around them to awaken the path. "You must offer your truth." "What does that mean?" Jory asked. Rhea stepped to the basin and looked in. Nothing. Then she took a deep breath and spoke. "My name is Rhea. I was once weak. I was humiliated. I cried alone. But now I stand not because I stopped hurting but because I chose to." The basin lit up. The crystal drifted lower. And the mirrors shattered all at once. A doorway appeared behind the basin. Tanu was breathing fast. "That's not normal magic." Rhea touched the crystal. It melted into her skin. The mark on her hand flared, and the door opened. They entered the new chamber. It was filled with wind-strung, endless wind, yet no sound, just rushing air and floating symbols. At the end of the chamber was a statue, a woman with long braids and a cloak of feathers. Rhea froze. That was her mother, but the statue was cracked, and behind it, carved on the wall, were 7 symbols. She didn't know why, but she knew what they meant. They were locks. The gate had 7 locks. 3 had already been broken. The more locks shattered, the weaker the gate became. And once all 7 were gone, would open. A scroll lay beneath the statue's feet. Rhea picked it up. It was written in her mother's handwriting. "If you've found this, then you are stronger than I ever was. They will try to use your pain. They will twist your past. But your voice is not theirs. It is your shield. When the 6th lock breaks, go to the city of the wind. There, the truth will rise." Virash looked at Rhea. "How many locks do you think are gone now?" Rhea whispered. 3. A distant boom shook the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling, and one of the mirror shards on the ground began to glow. Inside it, they saw Vishnu, a huge mountain crumbling, dark smoke rising, and Kale standing in front of a broken seal smiling. He had broken the 4th lock. They ran out of the temple as fast as they could. Behind them, the temple cracked, collapsed and vanished, buried forever. The compass spun faster now. Its needle pointed straight west, toward the city of the wind, toward the 6th lock. Back at the academy, Rayon watched the skies. Clouds circled like spirals. Birds flew backward. Time itself was shifting. He knew what it meant. The 5th lock would fall soon, and if Rhea didn't reach the city in time, it would be too late. Meanwhile, high above the mountains, in a floating fortress made of glass and shadow, stood before the gate's 5th lock, a giant wall of thorns, wrapped in screaming wind. Behind him were his followers, the silent ones, and now warriors who had once been students of other academies. Turned by fear, Kale raised his hand. The wind obeyed him. The thorns parted, and with a single whisper, the 5th lock shattered. In the distance, far below, Rhea collapsed. Her hand burned. The mark glowed bright red, and in her mind, she heard her mother's voice faint. "Afraid they know where your heart hides." Viraj helped her sit up. "What happened?" She looked up at the sky. "A storm was brewing. I think the 5th lock is gone." Jory stepped forward. "Then we're next," Tanu added. "Then we run." But Rhea stood up, wobbling but steady. "No," she said. "We don't run. We fight." And as the wind howled and the thunder roared, the 4 of them stared west. To the city of the wind. To the 6th lock. To the place where Rhea would either save the world or lose herself completely. The storm never stopped as Rhea and her group marched toward the city of the wind. The skies above them churned like boiling oceans. Trees bent, lightning danced like angry spirits. But they kept walking, because they had to. Every step was heavier than the last. The mark on Rhea's hand burned brighter with every mile. It was calling to something, or something was calling to her. The city of the wind wasn't made of stone. It floated above the clouds, built on massive stone circles, tied together with chains of light and air magic. It had no gates, no ladders, no paths. Only wind. Tanu stared upward. "How do we reach that?" Rhea held the spinning compass in her hand. It stopped spinning, and pointed down into the canyon. They followed the direction, deeper into the narrow valley below the floating city. And there, hidden behind vines and ancient rock, was a platform, made of feathers and steel. It was glowing. As soon as Rhea stepped on it, the platform rose slowly, silently carrying all 4 of them toward the clouds at the top. They were greeted by silence. The city of the wind was beautiful, too beautiful, floating. Gardens, spirals of clear glass, giant wind chimes that rang without sound, but it felt empty. No people. No guards. Just wind. And far in the center, a giant pillar made of storm clouds. Viraj muttered, "That has to be where the lock is." But they weren't alone. As they walked forward, they saw shadows not moving, but watching. Figures stood in doorways, eyes glowing, skin pale like smoke. The wind dwellers, once peaceful guardians of the skies, now hollow, soulless. Their mouths moved silently, no sound came out, but Rhea understood. She is not ready. They reached the pillar. A single staircase spiraled up. Its side, and at the top in a wide, circular platform stood a throne, empty, until suddenly, a figure appeared on it, Kale. He didn't look surprised. He didn't even smile. He just stared at her. "You're late?" he said. Rhea stepped forward. "You broke the 5th lock." He nodded. "And now I break the 6th. You can't," she said. "You'll destroy everything." "I don't want to destroy everything," Kale replied calmly. "I want to fix it. This world feeds on pain. You know that? It laughed at you. It humiliated you. You begged for kindness, and they threw dirt in your face." Rhea said nothing. He stood up. "The gate will cleanse it all. Start over, where no one is weak, no one is broken." "That's not strength," she said. "That's fear." Kale smiled sadly. "That's what my sister said." Rhea blinked. "What?" Kale's eyes flashed. "She was the key before you. My sister, she bore the mark. She was supposed to guard the gate, but she didn't want power. She wanted peace. So they made her disappear. She was your— "Yes!" he interrupted. "But you're different. I can feel it. You're angry. You're strong. Join me." Rhea stepped closer. "And what happens to those who say no?" Kale raised his hand. The clouds screamed. The wind dwellers leaped from rooftops, attacking Viraj. And the others fought hard. Jory's daggers flew in circles. Tanu summoned shields of green light, but the dwellers moved like air impossible to catch. Rhea ran up the stairs toward Kale. The storm grew around them. He didn't wait. He charged her. Their clash was thunder meeting fire. Blades of wind versus pure will. He was faster, sharper, colder. But Rhea had something. He didn't. She remembered who she was. The girl who was laughed at. The girl who fell in the mud. The girl who stood. Again. The girl who faced giants and didn't run. And that memory gave her fire. Kale tried to break her sword. She caught his arm, flipped him, slammed him into the stone. The mark on her hand burned brighter than ever. It lit up the entire sky. Kale looked up dazed. You can't." But the 6th lock was there now, right behind the throne, a symbol glowing in the air. Rhea walked toward it. Kale crawled forward, reaching. And then the mark on her hand touched the symbol, not to break it, but to bind it. She sealed the 6th lock. The city shook. The clouds parted, and light, pure, clear light spread across the sky. The wind dwellers fell still. Then, for the first time in years, they wept. Their minds had returned. Kale stared at her, shocked. "You didn't destroy it." "I wasn't meant to," Rhea whispered. Behind her, her friends stood, bruised but alive. Jor, I grinned. "You did it," Tanu cried softly. "You saved them." Viraj just smiled. But Rhea turned around and saw something they did in single quotes far across the world. On the Black Coast, the final lock was glowing. Broken. Already. The 7th seal, the gate, had opened. Kale laughed bitterly. "You were too late." "No," Rhea whispered. "I was just in time to be ready." The gate was open. Rhea could feel it, even though she stood miles away. Her hand, once glowing with the mark of the key, now felt cold, like something had been taken from her. Kale was silent. The others stood around her in disbelief. "The gate," Viraj muttered. "It's already broken." Tanu looked at the sky, where the 7th symbol had vanished. "But who could have opened it?" Kale gave a hollow smile. "There was always someone stronger than me. Always someone watching." Rhea narrowed her eyes. Who? He met her gaze. "The first one." The journey to the Black Coast was the longest they had ever taken, through fallen forests, over rivers, turned to ash. Villages once thriving were now silent, emptied of people, of sound, of hope. Each step they took, the air grew colder. By the time they reached the edge of the sea, the world felt wrong. The clouds above weren't gray. They were black, thick, unmoving, crackling with energy. The ocean wasn't water. It had turned to glass, hard still, reflecting the sky above like a cursed mirror. And at the edge stood a giant gate, Weiss, as tall as any mountain. Black and gold, glowing open. A figure stood before it, waiting. She wore robes made of starlight. Her hair flowed like night itself. Her eyes were not eyes at all. They were storms. The first one, the original key. Kale fell to his knees. Rhea looked down at him. Failed. Kale bowed his head, ashamed. But Rhea didn't kneel. She walked forward. "You opened the gate." The first one didn't blink. "I did." "Why?" The woman stepped closer. "Because this world has forgotten pain." Rhea frowned. "Everyone suffers." The woman's voice rose. "Yes, but they hide it. They bury it. They make the weak feel like dust, and call the strong heroes. They humiliate. They shame. They break hearts and laugh. I gave them a chance to become better, and when they didn't," Rhea whispered, "I opened the gate." From within the gate, creatures began to crawl. Not monsters of flesh and blood, but shadows of every soul's deepest fear. One took the shape of Rhea's mother, disappointed. Another looked like her old teacher, laughing as she fell. Another was her own voice, mocking, cruel. "You'll never be good enough," Viraj gasped. "It's showing us our worst memories." Tanu dropped to her knees. "It's too strong." But Rhea stepped forward and began to sing. Her voice was soft at first, shaky, barely, louder than the wind. But then she remembered the first day when she stood on stage and was laughed at, the night she cried alone, hugging herself, the people who said she was nothing. The pain, the humiliation, the shame. She sang through all of it, and her voice grew louder, wider, until the shadows paused, the creatures turned, and the world held its breath. The song was not perfect. It cracked, it trembled, but it was real. It carried every tear, every fall, every time she stood up again. The shadows faded, the darkness pulled back. Even the first one closed her eyes, listening, and for the first time in centuries, wept. "Why are you crying?" Rhea asked gently. The woman whispered, "Because you reminded me of who I was before the world broke me." And then, the first one stepped back. The gate began to close. Light poured from its edges. The glass ocean cracked, and then shattered into real water once again. The world was saved, not by a sword, not by war, but by a voice that refused to stay silent. By a girl who once couldn't stand, now standing where even kings fell. Weeks passed. The story of the gate spread like wildfire, but people remembered not the storm, not the monsters. They remembered the girl who sang. A new academy was built, not for fighters, but for anyone told they weren't enough. Rhea was made its first guardian. Jory became head of training. Tanu taught healing magic. Viraj led the scouts. Even Kale stayed, choosing to rebuild what he once tried to break. One day, during a festival, a little girl stepped on stage. She looked nervous, small, shy. People whispered, "She can't do it. She's too young. She's not ready." But from the crowd, Rhea stood and smiled. The girl looked at her and began to sing. And for the first time since the gate closed, felt it again. Hope, the kind that sings louder than fear.